they're just living in a teepee and they're like eating deer.
See, now you're romanticizing the savage life. The savage life sucked.
Yes. Did it though?
You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Lohman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Lohman.
Hey everybody, welcome to the House of Sunny podcast, post-Thanksgiving recap. And I guess we're going to talk state of the union, but the union is now the globe. So we'll talk about the state of the globe and the whole shenanigans, the globalist shenanigans, some pedo stuff, probably. I don't know. We should bring on our pedo experts for that.
Got a lot of those, huh?
Yeah. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the markets, a little bit market talk at the very end. So glad you're here. Aren't you glad you're here? I have a cold. So once in a while I may mute so that I can cough up a bunch of stuff. And I'm saving it in a jar so I can infect people.
There might be
out in public, spray them.
There might be a porn fetish for that. Maybe you can fit into a category.
Coughing.
Like coughing woman.
Right.
Middle-aged coughing woman.
There's probably a COVID fetish site.
Absolutely.
Give me COVID, baby. Give it to me.
Cough
on me. All right. Enough of that. Okay. So we were just noticing that, well, maybe we should talk Thanksgiving first. How was your Thanksgiving, Doug?
Uneventful. Not that exciting. So
did you get any turkey?
Which is nice. Yeah. We reheated a turkey and I got some turkey.
Reheated a turkey?
It was okay. Well, we buy it prepared and then you just reheat it.
I see.
So we don't have to cook it from scratch.
Yeah.
How about you? Do you have
I do a big Thanksgiving every year.
Oh, no.
So it's my big holiday, actually. It seems it's not bigger than Christmas. Christmas is as big, but it's as big as Christmas. I mean,
do you invite a lot of people?
Sometimes. This year was super low key for me, and it was like 8 people.
Oh, wow.
So that was really small. And usually I'm like, hey, all the strays, come on over, And we had invited 4 other people, a family with 2 kids, but they didn't come. And then I was going to invite another family of 4 with 2 kids. But then I just was like, what am I doing? No, let's just keep it at 8. I can handle that. I mean, it's just been I've had a rough couple of years, And last year was particularly hard, and Thanksgiving, getting all that coordinating food when you're on like medications and stuff is really difficult.
But it sounds like this is something you like to do because you do it every year. So
yeah.
What do you enjoy about having all these people over and stuff?
Just having my friends around me, I think.
You like having friends?
I've always been,
it's weird.
I've always been like, party at my house. And prior to doing a big Thanksgiving, in addition to doing a big Thanksgiving, I used to do, when I was healthy, every year I used to do an elf party right around the same time. And I would invite everybody, but the rule was you had to dress like an elf.
Porn fetish.
And I swear to God, like everybody did it. I mean, you should see some of the pictures of these parties that I had with everybody is dressed as a freaking head to toe elf.
Wow.
And we would watch the movie.
Where do you get elf stuff?
I would make like elf food from the movie, like, candy cane, candy corns and syrup. And
that's funny.
Like all kinds of fun stuff. I do it up. I love.
See, if I wasn't, I wouldn't even know where to get elf stuff. Like, what do you do?
I make it, man. I make it, dude.
No, like elf clothes.
Oh, well, I mean, like, I don't know. You just wear
right away. I'm confused. I don't know what to do.
Thrifts. We used to go to thrift stores and buy
where the poor elves sold
like a green sweater and
pawned off all their elf clothes.
I have these plastic ear tips,
Of course you do.
Yeah. or jangly Santa hat. I mean, it doesn't have to be, whatever. It is what it is. Every year was different. Like sometimes I'd wear just a red dress with red tights and, you know,
I
a
could do that.
jangly hat and my elf ears, maybe a scarf. I mean, you don't
Yeah,
have
it's
to
cool.
have the costume.
So you're like a real festive, celebratory, let's
Yeah.
get some friends together person.
Yeah.
So not everybody's like that.
No, I know. I'm an extrovert, first of all. So I really like being around people. It just fuels me. And although being sick, less so, I'd say I get drained and I get kind of overwhelmed. And now I know what it's like to be an introvert, you crazy people who who like go to a party and you feel like, oh my God, I just need to rest for 2 days now. That's how
Yeah.
I feel now. But I didn't used to feel that way. It's really just illness that has done that to me because but regardless of all that.
So what's your food list then? You got the turkey. What else do you put out there?
Total tradition. Like, what
What kind of
everyone else is
stuffing do you
eating.
make? I noticed that there's a lot of different kinds of stuffing.
No,
I
just
love
straight
stuffing.
ahead.
Like
Stuffing.
stovetop.
I really like the Pepperidge Farm.
Okay, that's fair.
It's grocery store stuff. But this year, it was homemade. And then I do a cranberry sauce that is so good. And I got that recipe from a friend. And I had a friend, that same friend taught me how to make the best turkey. And it turns out every time it's perfect and juicy.
But are you going to tell us? Is it a secret?
No, it's not really. It's pretty, I don't know. It would take too long. Do you
Okay.
know what? I will post it. I'll post it who wants this? It's after Thanksgiving. Maybe next year before Thanksgiving, I'll post my recipes because I've collected some really good ones. And, my family does the white trash yams with marshmallows and
Awesome.
a couple things like that. But mostly it's, turkey, mashed potatoes, stuffing, cranberry sauce, yams,
Like that.
salad, wine, bread, the usual, pumpkin pie, apple pie, pecan pie.
Nice.
I ordered those because
My favorite part is I eat the turkey for like a week or two on sandwiches because I love turkey off the bar. You cannot get real turkey anywhere unless you cook the bird. Like the sliced shit that's all processed.
it's all chicken.
You can't get anything. Yeah, it's gross. I love that.
And we wiped out our turkey. Like it's been gone for days.
Nice.
And then yesterday, Lucia was out of school and we went to Whole Foods Hot Bar to eat lunch and they had turkey dinner there. So what did I get? I got turkey dinner.
Well, here's my thing.
Like you think I'd be sick of it.
My wife doesn't really eat turkey or anything.
Excuse me, God. Yeah.
My wife's and my youngest son won't eat anything. He's super picky. So he's never even eaten turkey. He doesn't even know what it is. He won't eat stuffing. He won't eat anything. So it's basically just me and my older son. That's it. That's our Thanksgiving. We just sit there and eat, and everyone else, just like my son eats a bowl of cereal, my youngest son, and my wife won't eat anything.
Oh my God.
So it's just a big downer.
Sad.
It is. It's a downer to
if
start.
you were here, I'd invite you. You'd be like
I would
the
come to
sad
your place
strays
and just
that
leave
I would invite.
Me
to
and my
eat.
oldest son could come. Yeah.
Yeah, you two come.
Leave the
You
other
two
two.
come. They can come and they can eat their bowl of cereal while everybody else is enjoying. That's fine. I mean, the more the merrier. I love it. I
Awesome.
invited these four. We have these friends. They're Russians. They're from Russia. I love these people. And I met them through Lucia's school. So their kids go to school with my daughter. And I invited them. And then they said, well, we'd come except the dad's sister was going away for Thanksgiving and leaving her grumpy Russian mother behind.
Ooh.
So he had to take care of the grumpy Russian
These
mother
are grumpy people, the Russians.
who doesn't speak English.
Mm.
And they're like, we can't bring her, I'm like, oh yeah, bring her.
Bring her.
I'm like, I want to meet the grumpy Russian old lady who doesn't speak English. I can communicate to her. I
Yeah.
know I can.
You could relate to that.
And they probably don't realize how much I could relate to that. And
Did she
I'm
come?
like, bring her. No, they ended up not coming. And not only that, but the mother had like one of these. You have these moments in life where you flip out and you need a break from your family. And she did that and went to Costa Rica.
What? The grumpy mom? The grumpy
No,
Russian?
the wife, the
wife?
the mother of these, the matron of the family that I invited.
She went to Costa Rica?
She went to Costa Rica last week.
Dude, that's more than a flip out. That's like a...
She went on a yoga retreat with her friend for the week of
yoga-
Thanksgiving.
What?
I'm not kidding. Yeah, she's like, I need a break. I need to get out of here. I'm doing too much. And she's had a lot of stress at work and,
Wow, knowing people do that is liberating. Maybe I can do that.
Yeah.
Just
But for her Thanksgiving, they don't
I just walk out of the room. I don't go to Costa Rica.
I know, I don't either.
I go drive around in my car for like an hour.
I have checked into a hotel for one night, like a staycation, not in any kind of huff, just I need to get a good night's sleep. I need to wake up without responsibility and just lounge, everybody needs that. But I think I've only done that once.
I've threatened to do that.
Yeah.
And my family's like, great. Really? Will you make it 2 nights? I'm like, damn it.
Leave your wallet.
I'm leaving. Okay. See ya.
We got credit cards. What do we need you for?
Just leave some money. No, that's great. That's awesome.
So she went up to Costa Rica because, they don't care about Thanksgiving. They're Russian. They're like, what is this?
Do you
guys eat?
Yeah. They're from Russia.
Oh yeah.
They're like super Russian.
They're so Russian. And then as we're pulling into drop off Lucia at school early this week, we see Max, the guy, coming in the other direction, and we roll our windows down and he's like, I survived. And then she came back. I love these people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanksgiving is great. It's a great holiday.
It is. It's such a good holiday. I love it. And I have friends from New York City who come to wherever I am every Thanksgiving. So they're like a fixture.
They flew from
They
New York
always,
to come?
I can't believe they do it. I can't believe they still do it. But every year they do it.
That's great.
And then the day after we went to Disney. We all went to Disneyland.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
How is Disneyland these days?
It was great. Disney is woke. Great.
Is it? That company's horrible.
Yeah, I know.
Didn't it get super? I guess how could it get that woke if you're in the kids?
Well, all that stuff in Disneyland is like old school. It's, a lot of it is pre-woke old school stuff.
Okay, that's good.
But the coolest thing they have there right now is the Star Wars exhibit. And I think I talked about it on here, but it is immersive. They call it an immersive experience. And it is, you feel like you're on another planet. They really do the details, or you feel like you're on a movie set of another planet, like a really elaborate movie set.
Is it a ride, or do you walk into
No, it's an area. And then there are rides within the area. And one of them is an immersive virtual reality video game where you and your party, and we were a party of 3 on this, or 4 on this particular one. We went in and we're in the Millennium Falcon in the little piece that comes off the ship.
Yeah.
We're in that little thing, and all the windows are, virtual reality. And then we're playing a video game, and we all have our controls, so gunners in the back, 2 pilots, and we have a mission, and dude, it is so fun. So that's a real highlight. But yeah, otherwise it's like, Winnie the Pooh ride, and It's a Small World, and, it's just old school Disney. There's none of that modern stuff. But then I'm sure there are parks that aren't Disneyland that have that stuff. I just haven't been to them. I haven't been to any of the newer parks except Epcot, which opened in the 80s. So
yeah, for a real tribute to Star Wars, you guys should pretend to poorly act like Hayden Christensen.
Oh yeah, we should have.
I love you, Padme.
Damn it. Aren't you going to come with me? Or something like that.
Exactly. Darn you.
But
all right.
You're authoritarian. Okay. All right. On to the state of the world. So
speaking of authoritarians
and the evil empire,
Hell yeah, man.
Seriously, the Star Wars references aren't far off. Like there's a lot of
Well, I mean,
memes kind of
just
using the
of
Star
course.
Wars and like what's happening.
Does anyone
So
watch that movie? I mean, come on.
I know, I think about this a lot. I know that in school you have to read 1984. That's like almost every high school they read that. All of these movies that came out, all this stuff, all this anti-Nazi stuff. And yet people don't like this thing in Australia. So here's some news headlines. Australia is now putting people in a camp that they can't leave to quarantine. And I haven't even read that much about it, but it has something to do with sick indigenous people. Like they're literally locking up sick Aborigines and also travelers and stuff. And then there were some memes over the weekend of people in these camps in bikinis, like, oh, it's so dangerous, right? But then on Tuesday, some people escaped and they went after them in cop cars and like they were arrested. And the anchors are talking about how they got over the barbed wire. I'm like, wait, barbed wire? Oh, these camps. Oh, I'm in my bathing suit and I'm enjoying it. And isn't it great? You're barbed wired in this camp. And if you escape, they will hunt you down and arrest you. But it's not a concentration camp.
No. No, it's fun camp.
I don't understand. Like if people have some weird disconnect between, oh, but they have 3 varieties of cereal and they're getting 3 meals a day. So it's not really bad. You know what I mean?
Isn't that like a natural human reaction is, well, this isn't that bad.
Maybe.
Or it's a sense of like displacing your fear by just saying, well, hey, it could be worse. I'm getting, I'm in a cage, but they feed me and I get recreation. I mean, I think this is how tyranny happens very slowly.
Yeah.
If you go from freedom to tyranny, but if it's like slow, it's like, well, okay. Like one day it's they put the Star of David on the businesses and, we all know the trajectory of tyranny and how it escalates, but it's amazing how people rationalize it.
I can't relate to it because I mean, I've made my mistakes, but I think I recognize their mistakes pretty quickly when things start to actually go off the rails. Like I've said this before, I'll say it again, and I probably need to keep saying it. I was wrong. 2 weeks to slow the spread. Lockdown was a really bad idea. I was kind of in support of it, given the context, and I just did not think they could get away with what's happened. I really didn't. So that has been a real eye opener. And I think what I've learned from that mistake is, you can't give an inch. They'll hold on to that inch for dear life and take advantage of it as much as they can. And given that they're so entrenched, I think that was surprising to me. And how many people are just either passive or really willing to go along with the propaganda and don't see it as propaganda, see it as their guide for what they're supposed to do in life. It's like really crazy. But when you see a camp with barbed wire and they're putting people in there, whether you want to be in there or not, because you're sick, or you're not even sick, you might be sick, but you're just trying to enter the country that you're a citizen of. Man, that's messed up.
Well, Austria is jailing
Well,
unvaccinated
first,
people. That's even worse. You're not even,
there's no camp.
You're not even
you.
sick. There's no camp. You go straight to jail.
People aren't sick. This is a quarantine camp, but it's also for people who are sick in Australia. And then in Austria, last week or 2 weeks ago, they said if you're unvaccinated, you are required by law now to get vaccinated. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that word on YouTube. We should probably use like euphemisms.
For what? Vaccine?
Yeah. Should I beep it out? So you have to get the shot.
Eating your Rice Krispies.
If you don't eat your Rice Krispies, they will fine you. And the fines obviously lead to jail if you don't pay them. But I would say we're 1 to 2 months away from forced medicine, like literally put it in the arm, whether you like it or not, tie you down and you're getting jabbed. Because if you don't, you're killing people. I mean, that's how they're framing it, you know?
Mhm.
And then in Germany today, they introduced new rules for the people who won't eat their Rice Krispies can no longer do, everything except grocery shop or something like that and have to stay home. And the United States today is set to announce, if it hasn't already, that if you are coming into this country and you don't have the shot or a test or something, you have to quarantine for 7 days. Or even if you do, it's something like really crazy. If you're coming into this country, you have to self-quarantine for 7 days. And like you were saying, the slow roll of this, today it's 7 days at home. You're fine. You're going to be at home. What's the big deal? I can stay home for a week. Besides, if I really want to, I'll go to the store and I'll see my friends. And, like people think, oh, whatever, I'm not complying with this. I'll say I'm complying, but I won't comply. But then next it will be a facility, I mean, and Australia was putting people up in a hotel, but now it's a camp. Well, hotels are expensive, I mean, we can't keep doing hotels on the taxpayer's dollar. We have to build a camp. Well, when we already have these camps kind of already built for this other purpose, and we said it was for something else and would never be used for something like this, but here it is. And here we are, and it's an emergency. And like, it's so obvious. It's like a playbook. It's creepy. It's really creepy how much it fools people. And when you heard about Nazis and you heard about Jews in Germany from that period, you'd say to yourself, why didn't the Jews leave? Like, they're having to wear yellow stars. Their businesses are shut down. They can't educate their kids. Like, you're like, why are they sitting there like sitting ducks waiting to be shipped to a camp and gassed? I remember thinking that, like, who are these stupid Jews? Why didn't they get out? I mean, first of all, where do you go? You have to have a place to go. You can't just go anywhere. You'll get deported or whatever. I mean, it's not like it was open immigration around the globe in the 40s.
It's not so easy to leave.
It's not so
then,
easy.
yeah.
You need money a lot of times. And back then it was less
And
easy.
a lot of them did. The ones that had money did leave.
Yeah.
But
a lot of them just said, well, this will end. Like this will just get so bad that people will wake up, because everybody's not really this evil. And you just keep thinking, and I keep thinking that, when is everybody going to wake up? When are we going to get out of this thing? When are people going to have enough? And you even have in Europe where people are out in tens of thousands in the streets doing these giant protests. In Italy, we've seen it, especially in Italy. And we've seen it in France. We've seen it in Melbourne, Australia. And what are they doing? They double down and they double down and they're doubling down. It's not helping yet. I mean, we'll see, but.
Well, it's going to have to turn violent. I mean, bottom line, I hate to say it, but, they're not going to stop until, I mean, this is the trajectory of all of human history.
They have to be physically removed, because they're not going to stop, right? I mean, look at what Fauci said recently. Did you see that interview on Face the Nation? Yeah. He said, he laughed. He's laughing at people who think that him lying to Congress about the origins of the virus that he fucking paid for is Hey, listen, don't question me. I am science. And it's not the first time he's said it. And he literally freaking means it. And you think about like the Meghan Markle narcissist that we always make fun of, and the trait of kind of the grandiosity. But if you've known narcissists, you can say to them, look, A to B to C, your behavior is like this. Of course, you're going to antagonize that person. You are the cause of this. They'll be like, no, I'm not. They literally are delusional about their own behavior being perfect all the time. And that's Fauci. Like, he's just got no awareness. He would never slink away. He is going to have to be removed, either legally or I mean, eventually, if they're putting us in camps and stuff, forget extra legally, I guess. Right.
Yeah. Well, when the government goes to that point, there is no legality. It's just a war. It's a civil war where you're fighting for your rights. There's no such thing as legal and illegal. It's just a battle,
And we're looking at them now pivoting to climate change, and they're passing all this Green New Deal stuff. They don't want you to be able to eat meat. I just I can't believe this is happening. And
especially in California, right? Didn't they do a thing on pork?
Oh, dude, I don't know, but my turkey was $8 a pound. And people in Minnesota, my relatives and stuff, were paying 33 cents a pound. And I'm like, what the hell is this? And not only was it $8 a pound here in California, but last year, still in California, it was half the price. It was still high, but it was half the price for it was a little bit smaller this year. A smaller turkey, I paid double what I paid last year. And I paid $8 a pound, which is, how many times is that? 33 cents a pound to $8 a pound. Apparently,
24.
California has some law about humanely slaughtered turkeys.
Same with
which
pigs. Yeah.
has set up this incredible level of procedure and regulation that you have to comply with in order to eat a freaking turkey. Whereas, they're like running across people's yards in Minnesota. So I just was amazed about that. Plus,
you're supposed to eat bugs, right? Don't they want us to eat bugs?
Bugs and tofu. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But also I'm hearing that this gig economy law has really messed with the trucking. And that's been a really big problem getting things in and out of California. And that gig economy law is coming to a federal bill near you.
Is it really?
Actually being, it's been one of Nancy Pelosi's big things for a couple of years. It's called the PRO Act, but now they can't seem to get that passed because everyone knows it's a economy killer. Biden has snuck it into this current bill that he's working on, or Biden, I say, but you know what I mean by that. He doesn't know what's going on. So that's coming. They're going to do that. I mean, that's what they do. The Democrats, they come up with a concept, they push it in California, then they take it federal, then they push. Oh, I can't get it here, I'm going to get it there. They're like water going around, any resistance. And then the problem is we don't have the same, our leaders are so weak.
We're always reacting to the left. We're never proactive. We're never on the offensive. We're always, what's the latest headline? What crazy thing is the left trying now? Meat. Yeah. Okay, well, let's argue about why we should eat meat and why that's dumb and why, this is what we do every week is what is the left doing?
I know.
And then meanwhile, they don't succeed in getting all meat removed, but they're essentially pricing people out of buying pig, pork, and turkey in California.
Yeah,
by passing a law saying they have to be free range pigs or something like that. Yeah. So then they'll do it somewhere else, and there's a little regulation here, and then in 10 years, the whole idea
no one can eat meat.
The whole idea, right now, it's crazy. Oh, what? You can't eat meat? That's crazy. But in 10 years, it'll be well, okay, we've kind of been dealing with this for a while.
A steak will be a high luxury item. Maybe you'll get some hamburger a couple times a week. That is no joke. They are doing that. They're doing that. That's how they're getting gun control. They're so regulating and restricting guns and ammunition. Oh, we can't get guns. We'll get ammunition. Well, what good is a gun if you don't have any bullets? So,
yeah, this is what we got to figure out ways to go on the offensive. We've talked about this.
We have to we need 30 Marjorie Taylor Greens. Mm-hmm. That's what we need. We need people who are like, no, not happening. Not only that, here, when she was like, I'm going to impeach Biden. She's the one doing bills coming out of the gate. No, F you, we'll impeach Biden. And DeSantis does similar stuff with the, bills to block the crazy shenanigans coming out of the federal government. He does that too. But Have you been paying attention to this latest little spat between a basically Rhino and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren?
Yeah.
Yeah.
About Green criticized, or was it Babert? I think she
criticized
criticized
Mace.
Omar.
Yes. And then Mace was like, how dare she? And she's a Republican. And she's like, we have to be better than this, typical freaking GOP wussiness.
Mm-hmm.
And then Marjorie Taylor Greene stepped in to defend Lauren. And then it's this big, and now AOC and Omar are all, oh, they're racist. They're trying to take the high road.
I love this because she called supposedly to apologize to Omar. And she said to Omar, I want you to apologize for your anti-American,
anti-Semitic
and anti-police stance, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought of is, why isn't Omar apologizing to Americans?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And she has said, remember her blatant anti-Semitism stuff? And she never apologized for that, or she was almost censored.
She's married to her brother.
She was married to her brother, allegedly.
To evade immigration law. I mean, she's got a laundry list of crimes
she's a
committed.
Total criminal, and allegedly, and allegedly her family name isn't Omar, it's something else, and they took the Omar name in order to get in. So her whole family lied about who they are in order to get into this country as family members of somebody who was here.
CNN's on top of this thing.
I mean, none of them are legally here. They could all be sent home tomorrow if someone would look into it.
Yeah, we need a free New Deal type thing where
we've always talked about that.
We put that out there with a list of demands, just like that Green New Deal, and it'll sound crazy. And I don't want to hear this is crazy, it'll never happen, which is what Republicans say. When AOC put out her Green New Deal, which called for banning air travel and banning cows and getting rid of fossil fuels in 5 years or something like that, no one said, oh, that's crazy, that'll never happen. They're literally doing it. So we got to put that out there for real big picture goals and get all these Republican politicians behind it to sign it. And let's do what they do, water around the impediments, just keep going.
Yeah, I had that idea a couple of years ago and I never wrote it. The free New Deal. Yeah. I've been a little under the weather for a couple of years. So somebody out there take that idea, please, and run with it. And put cow farts, put 5 times the cow farts as one of the things.
Yeah, we need to up meat.
Our cow methane production in order to create a good warming effect so we can have really super awesome crops.
Yeah, and we should turn the farts into fossil fuel energy.
Yeah.
Maybe we should power our entire economy on cow farts.
Could work.
Why not?
Elon Musk wants to power everything with the sun. Do you hear him going on his ravings about that? He wants 100% solar power.
Oh,
yeah. I think it's interesting. I mean, I feel like it's one of those things where if it is such a powerful energy force in the solar system. I mean, it's right. If you could figure it out, it's an interesting way to get energy.
Well, of course. I mean, we have solar. I mean, it's an efficiency problem. And the amount of.
But that's a technology problem? That's not a physics problem. I mean, technically, that's some pretty big energy there.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of figuring out how to get it and focus it. But of course, it's cool when people think about that. But obviously the technology isn't here now. Right.
Right. Well, yeah, that's the problem, is that they work. They're unreliable. So at this point, and the amount of resources that you need in order to make those technologies work are often more impactful than just using fossil fuels to begin with. So there's never any discussion of that. Obviously battery technology.
I'd like to see him launch a rocket on solar power.
Yeah, good luck with that. No,
right?
yeah.
So the other thing, what's really obvious and chilling about all of this crazy continued COVID lockdown stuff is it's all in the face of a variant that is mild that we should all probably be inoculating ourselves with, Would everybody get a cold if they knew that the pandemic would be over, a cold that would be mild? Wouldn't everybody want that at this point? And that looks to be the case with Omicron, although I don't think we're sure about that, but that's what they're saying in South Africa. And that variant is here. They've tested it here. So I mean, this whole idea that you can keep out a germ, it's kind of insanity to begin with, I think, in this world, the way that we are, you can't really do it. So you have to figure out how to deal with it. And instead, our whole approach, because it serves the power base, our whole approach has been, avoidance and trying to stop it and trying to end it in not one case and stuff like that. So in the face of a mild variant, which is what we should be hoping for, and treatments that work, and failing Rice Krispies, you know what I'm saying? Like obvious failure of this because it's not protecting you from getting it or spreading it or,
Right.
possible risks and side effects from those drugs. And in the face of all of that, they're doubling down and they're wanting to, really make you do it.
Yeah.
Continuing to really make you do it. Why do you think they want it so much?
Because this is their last attempt at power. I think they saw with what's happened over the last 4 years after Brexit and Trump that they were losing control of the narrative. And I think that this is a very convenient way for them to assert power, to represent that they are a force for good. And in their lust for power, they also have to always conflate that with a good justification. We're not doing this because we want to control you and we hate you. Yeah, we're doing this for your own benefit because this is good for society and it's good. So it's a very convenient excuse for them to grab this level of power, and it's also a way to sort the deplorables, because the people that are unvaccinated or that are not compliant are precisely the people that they hate the most, that they want to segregate from society.
Right.
So it's convenient in a lot of ways.
So do you think there are positive signs?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think, first of all, when we compare the fact that a federal judge now has injuncted Biden's mandate, that a lot of people refuse to comply with,
not only his OSHA mandate, but his healthcare mandate, the healthcare mandate that he did too.
So yeah, so I think our court and our system is being used to fight back against that, which obviously is not the case in these smaller European countries where, they just have top-down control like that, which has been occurring in Europe for a long time. I think Europe and the rest of the world is pretty much gone. I think the United States, there's a lot of good signs, I think, in the culture. Like everywhere I see, I mean, I just around, so I don't know if this plays into this narrative of like, it's not that big of a deal here and no one really cares. But on Thanksgiving, I tried to get a COVID test. And because like 5 days before that, I was at a party or a get together with an older man who ended up having COVID. So I figured, well, I'll just go get tested. And, why not? Isn't that like the thing you're supposed to do, right? So I go to the clinic and there's no one there. There was it is on Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
I go to the emergency clinic and there's like one car in the parking lot. I'm like, is this place even open? I walk in and there's a woman sitting there and I'm like, hey, I just get tested for COVID. And an RN comes out, or the nurse practitioner or whatever, and she's got her stethoscope and they're sitting there. There's obviously no one there except them. And they're like, no, we're not going to test for COVID because we're short staffed. And they're just sitting there at the desk looking at me.
And you're like, you got a problem with
I'm
that?
like,
What's the big deal?
you could just take that Q-tip and stick it in my nose and like test me though. So I'm like, okay. She's like, well, you can make an appointment to get tested maybe tomorrow. But unless you're, and I wasn't symptomatic. If I had said, yeah, I'm symptomatic or I have a sore throat, I think they probably would have had to. But I was like, I'm not really symptomatic. I just want to get tested real quick. Is that okay? There's like
Was
no
this
one
a
here.
PCR you were asking or a rapid? What were you asking for? Any test?
Yeah, and well, that's funny that you asked that, because then they're like, well, you can go to the drugstores. They do the testing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So a medical hospital doesn't apparently test you for COVID. Okay. So I'm like, well, I'll try CVS. So then I'm on my way to CVS, and as I'm driving, I'm like pulling up the CVS website to try and figure out if I have to make an appointment. And so there's a phone number, and I'm like, oh, I'll just call CVS and just ask them if I can, hey, can I come there right now and just get tested for COVID? So I call a number, and it's clearly like a call center. And, you know, it's always this woman who's like, I think she's from Singapore. It's like the same woman I get for every call center. She sounds the same. I don't know if it's like an accent. It's not Indian. I think it's like either maybe Filipino.
Doug, it's your call center woman.
It is. I think she's.
It's actually the Truman Show.
It's a Truman
your
Show.
call center woman.
Any call center I get, it's like airlines, anything. It's always this one woman. She's like, hello. I'm like, yeah, I'm calling this number because it says like, you know, can I get tested for COVID? She goes, have you tried CVS.com? And I'm thinking, why do you think I'm fucking calling you? Like,
yeah.
No, I'm calling you. That's why I'm calling you. Why? I mean, and the website says, call this number, you know, to make your appointment. Yeah. So I hung up on her. I'm like, I'm just going to CVS. So then I go to CVS and the pharmacy's open. And I'm like, you know, it says COVID testing center. I'm like, do you test for COVID? Not today, not on Thanksgiving or something. There's like 3 people. There's no one there. I'm like, so you don't test, huh? No, we're not testing today. Okay. So then I go to Walgreens. I figure I'll go to Walgreens. So then as I'm in the drive-through line at Walgreens, I'm pulling up the website. And the first thing it says is what you just asked. Do you want a PCR test? Do you want a rapid antigen test? I'm like,
you don't even know what these are.
I don't even know, like, what, I just, you know, I don't know. I guess the good one, the one that works. You know, the one that'll tell me if I have COVID.
The good one.
Give me the good one. Give me the good test. So then I get up to the window and I'm like, I show her my website. I'm like, hey, I'm on your website. I'm trying to make an appointment. And she's like, no, we're not doing COVID tests today.
That is so weird because
once
like
again,
those rapid tests, they're easy to do. I mean,
well, then I said, all right. She said, I know you can buy the tests.
Yeah.
So then I went back to CVS. I think I was on my way back and I went into that CVS with that same girl that said, we're not doing them today.
Yeah.
And I went in the place. Yeah. I'm like, hey, do you have the rapid tests? Even though I know they don't work that well.
Yeah.
And she goes, well, if we have them, they'll be right there. And there was a big empty shelf with like 2 Santa Clauses, like Santa Claus figurines.
This is out of a movie, man.
And she goes, well, if we have them, they'll be right on that shelf. And I go, no, but you do have 2 Santa Clauses. And I just stared at her and she goes, that means we're out of the test. She didn't even, no sense of sarcasm whatsoever. She's like, that means we're out of tests if you see the 2 Santa Clauses. So I'm like, okay, guess I'm not getting a test today. So I don't know. I never got tested. I'm fine. But
contrast that with last year where I think we had,
and other countries are putting people in fucking camps.
Right. We don't, nobody cares.
I went to 4 places to try and get a test.
That's what I'm finding
like,
too. Like
whatever,
the general attitude, at least in most of the country, probably not in LA, probably not in New York, you know, whatever. People are just like, I don't really care anymore. Mm-hmm. But we have the sort of hardcore politicians that are still pushing it. pushing all this stuff and accelerating it and going forward with it. And, here in California, they're going to mandate vaccines for little children, like 5-year-olds,
to go to school,
public or private, to go to school. So that starts January. And we haven't been given any information about what the deadline is or anything like that,
What?
Because we obviously have a kid that fits into that category. So I don't know.
So what about homeschool?
Yeah, you can homeschool. That's your only option.
That's your only option.
Yeah. And I wonder how long that's going to last. If the idea is that everyone has to be jabbed to protect everyone, and it's so critical for public health, why would they allow an exception for homeschooling?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. But again, they do everything kind of one notch at a time. Okay, I take my kid out of public school, put them in private school, and then I don't have to get them vaccinated. This was before COVID. A lot of people private school their kids to avoid doing the whole vaccination schedule. And in California, they mandated vaccines with no exemptions. By the way, I've said this on this show before.
That's crazy.
I've said this on the show before. They said there would be exceptions, that you could get a medical exemption. No religious exemptions allowed, but a medical exemption is allowed. And that, they make that argument because there are obviously kids who can't get, if you've had a seizure or an anaphylactic reaction to one of the first shots, you don't want to get a follow-up back.
Of course.
If you had a reaction to the Hep B shot, you don't get the second shot. You just don't. And everyone understands this. But in California, so when they were mandating vaccines, people were freaking out, we're talking about kids and let alone adults. I mean, why adults are different, but still it's mentally way worse to think about doing that to a child. And they said, medical exemptions. Of course, you can get a medical exemption. But as soon, literally the month that it went into effect, they sued every they went after and investigated and sued every doctor that provided an exemption. So they've chilled the market of exemptions. So I think that you're, like what you've seen with COVID. They're threatening your licenses. Doctors are being threatened. They can't actually do what's best for their pediatric clients because they're being threatened by the state agencies and stuff like that. It is despicable to me that you are a medical professional, doctor of little children, with them in under your charge, and you didn't fight that. 99.9% of pediatricians should have been up in arms, organizing and fighting that, and they didn't do it. That was 2 years ago. And by the way, asshole objectivists like Amesha Jala was on the front line of pushing that fucking shit here in California. And I have a friend who's another objectivist doctor who founded the company Physicians for Informed Consent, specifically after this was all done, trying to fight this. This was I guess it was 3-4 years ago now. She founded this organization to fight this thing. And, so I was aware of all this going on back when it did. And I was aware of Amesha Jala's stance on it. And I was arguing against it on Facebook with him, fucking dipshit. And now, you know what Amesha Jala says about COVID vaccine mandates? Well, they're already mandated for the other schedule. So,
wow.
And he was part of the effort to mandate that. So now socialists use that as an excuse. Well, we already went this far, so now we'll just go this far and this far. It is the most evil fucking thing.
Yeah, we're already in Afghanistan and Iraq. So what are we going to do now? I mean, what are you going to do? We've already done it.
Right. You've already decided it's okay. Therefore, now we're really you've already decided a concentration camp is okay. Now we're going to just give you bread and water. I mean, God. Now we're going to shoot people who try to get out. Now we're you already said it was okay to lock you up. So what do you expect if you try to escape that we shoot you? I mean, this is how they do it. And you got an objectivist central planner. I mean, it just galls me. I'm sorry. And it's not him. It's all these mental retard followers of him within the objectivist movement. It makes me sick. Okay. I'm going to get off that. Anyway, I forget where I was going with this, but the fact that California had already mandated vaccines and therefore they're just sliding in a new vaccine. Sure. They already have the whole law and infrastructure in place. They don't need to even pass a new law. They're just adding it to the schedule. So very, very easy for them to do it here. And that,
as if the mRNA is the same as like a chickenpox vaccine or something.
They're calling it a vaccine, so it's okay, right? They could put anything on there. They could put LSD on there. Mm-hmm. They could put
the LSD vaccine.
They could put psychology drugs on there. You know,
why not? You're protecting the public. Like, why not medicate all the children so that we don't have any psychopaths like shooting up the schools?
If you have ADHD,
medicate them. Yeah, force medication.
You're a danger to yourself and all the suicide rate among kids is so high. Let's just force medicate them for their own protection. Anyway, this is such an outrage. But that is coming in January here in California. And, you know, I'm sure they'll try to take that nationally, but I think most people won't put up with that. I mean, I have to hope. And I think it is going to splinter our society into groups that won't put up with it and groups that will put up with it.
Well, I think there's states right now that aren't putting up. I mean, California is by far the extreme exception.
Talk about lost. I mean, there's no way out of this. There's no way out of this for California. I don't think.
You know, like I like what Ron DeSantis is doing, and you know, some of the other states that are fighting back against this. And Ron DeSantis is going on the offensive, which is what I like. He's like actively saying the state's going to go after people that do mandate, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah. So I think that's awesome that he's doing that. I think he should be the front runner for president.
That is the offensive. That's what we're talking about, right? We want people being aggressive and proactive about blocking this junk in the same way they're progressive. Yeah.
You have to let's have a positive law that says, no, we're reasserting our rights under the law.
Yeah.
And
we need the free New Deal. Like we've been talking about for a couple of years.
I think DeSantis is the best out there that I've seen.
But do you want him running for president and getting out of Florida? I mean, what's great about him is he's running a petri dish of freedom. And without that, like, what could he do federally that would be so great compared to what he's doing in Florida? I think he should stay where he is.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I thought about that. You know, maybe it would depend on who's behind him that could run, but I would hate to lose him in a state like that, because really, as you're saying, even if he wins the presidency, like, what's he going to do?
Yeah, the deep state will crush him.
Right now, at least we have Florida, at least we have Texas, at least we have some of the southern states.
Optically, hasn't it been so important, especially now that cases are low in Florida and everyone's like,
in Sweden,
look, we can prove that in Florida, in the United States, there's a place where they're not doing anything. And they're fighting against all this outrage every time they don't do anything. And they're just as healthy or healthier than the rest of us. That is really critical to kind of taking down the narrative and proving it wrong. And so if he went, nobody's as tough as him. Anyone who took his place would not be able to do it. It's Tim Cook to Steve Jobs. Yeah. You know, we can't have a Tim Cook running Florida after Steve Jobs.
Yeah, it's a good point.
All right, let's talk about the market then. Doug, what's your take on what's going on?
What's my take on the market? So,
what's your hot take?
Well, I think things are in pretty bad. I mean, we you know, things have been like crazy up this year in the stock market, and most of this, you know, the big picture, in my opinion, is you have a government entity like the Federal Reserve printing trillions of dollars to fund government deficits and monetizing those deficits.
How many trillions have they done? Isn't it like 9 trillion now?
Yeah, their balance sheets at around 8 to 9 trillion. So that's how much they've really created in the last 10 years since the first financial crisis. And when they what they do is they'll buy a government bond. So the federal government, rather than tax us to get the money for the $3 trillion infrastructure, they issue bonds, and then through a series of processes, the Federal Reserve Bank ends up buying a lot of those bonds. And when they buy the bond, they don't buy it with money. They just buy it with a fake account. They just say, oh, sure. Yeah, we want to buy $1 trillion of bonds. Here's an account with $1 trillion in it. And then they don't actually pay for it. They create fake money in essence. So all this money is getting created. And at the same time, especially during the COVID situation, you have a reduction in supply and supply chain problems. So you've had reduced supply and then increasing dollars. And obviously, if you give everybody in your town $1 million, giving people money doesn't create more goods and services. It just creates more people with money saying, give me stuff. And so initially, that's why prices have been going up and up and up to catch up with it. And it's obviously a very insidious process because it happens in a nonlinear way. The first people that have the
stock market
money,
is also going up.
Yeah, because that money, when you superinflate business revenue with fake paper dollars, all their revenues are going up. And initially it can increase their profit margins. And, so all this money starts getting into asset prices. It starts getting into housing prices. Rents then start to go up. People start demanding more wages or higher wages. And, stock asset prices are going up to keep up with that. And everything's going up in price at the same time. And obviously, if this were just temporary, you'd have a temporary increase in price. And that increase in price would incentivize all sorts of people to say, oh, toilet paper is $180 a roll.
Let's make some toilet paper.
Let's make some toilet paper and we'll make some money. And then there's tons of toilet paper and then all the prices come down. But the only way that prices can generally keep going up and up and up and up is if the government is printing. And that's what they're doing rather than.
Are we experiencing the full effect of their printing yet? Or what's the time delay tend to be on their printing and us seeing it in the grocery store? Because they printed a bunch last year. And let's just be clear, this is not a Biden thing because Trump did this too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, this has been going on since the creation of the Federal Reserve. And
yes, this is a Fed thing. Not a public thing. Although the politicians pass their big spending bills and it encourages the Fed to do this.
Right. And since the financial crisis in 2008 through 2010 timeframe, the Fed set a bunch of precedents by doing things that they've never done before. And now they've become commonplace, which is this idea of quantitative easing, where they buy government debt with fake money. And now it's become an actual
part of their
policy to, hey, we're going to. And so what's been going on in the last few months is that as these price increases are being now reflected in actual CPI, the bullshit government CPI type numbers, no one can ignore what's going on, which is that prices are going up and up and up. And so the Fed's reaction to that is to then say, well, we're going to do less. We're going to do less of this money printing. And the way economics works is once people get used to something, you need to keep accelerating it to make it have an effect. So in order for the market and all this stuff to keep going up and up, the Fed needs to constantly surprise us with more and more money creation. And just them not doing as much and now saying we're going to do less and we're going to actually stop money printing and then we're going to start raising rates next year.
Are they going to raise rates?
The market thinks they're going to start raising rates next year. Yeah. I don't know if they will, but they're claiming to.
Can we
and so that when that happens, everything goes in reverse. Now, instead of everything hyperinflating, you have the reverse process and you have the bust and all these resources that have been misallocated and all the stupid shit people have bought with the fake money. It all has to be unwound. And we're in the first innings, I think, of that process happening.
Okay. So what do you see? We're going to have more inflation. We're going to have market crashes, bubbles bursting.
Usually that's what has always happened is the bubble does burst and they'll keep, what if there's really a dance
Are
that
we
goes
gonna
on.
be are we gonna be taking wheelbarrows of cash to the grocery store?
Well, I don't think
Metaphorically,
so.
now that it's digital, we don't actually have to do that. But
Someone asked me the other day, like, do you think we'll have hyperinflation? I said, we kind of already do, don't we? Because when we think of hyperinflation, we always go back to Weimar Germany and Zimbabwe, where people are
yeah,
carrying around buckets full of cash. But it's important to recognize that inflation is not prices increases, it's the creation of the money. And the creation of the money, we have had hyperinflation of the money supply. They've created trillions and trillions of dollars. Now, whether that makes it and how that makes it into prices depends on the extent of freedom in the market. I mean, if you have a totally free market and they're creating a lot of money, there's
it
still a
cushions
lot.
some of that.
It does cushion some of that. So
Yeah.
maybe instead of, because in a lot of ways, think about it this way, as we get more efficient through capitalism, prices should be going down.
Right.
So, and we should be getting richer.
Just think about that. Think how wealthy we'd be if these fuckers weren't in there messing around with it.
The computers,
then,
cars, everything's getting better. Prices should be going down. We should be able to afford
productivity
more.
with all computers and all that stuff. Productivity
That's
is
how
so
we
much
get rich.
higher across the board.
But instead, when they inflate, maybe, so in other words, what I'm saying is prices should be going down, but because of inflation, maybe they just go up a little bit. And the dumb economists who think inflation is just price increases, they say, well, prices aren't increasing that much. They're not increasing that much.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, no, well, what if prices are supposed to go down? And meanwhile, stock prices are going up and there's all sorts of misallocations going on.
And you can't prove that prices would have gone down. So it's
very,
very clever. It's a clever way to tax us. So what's interesting is that the Fed is private. That kind of creeps, like people don't know that. They think it's an arm of the government.
I think it really, obviously it is, but it's pseudo private because it was, they had shareholders. It was created it
was created by a bunch of banks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. The history
this
of
was
it's
not,
really
the history is really corrupt and gross.
It's a totally communistic system. It was a total nationalization of the money supply.
Yeah.
And a nationalization of banking. And we've had nothing but destruction coming from the Fed. And they are the ones who are responsible for the boom bust cycle. And now we're going to be in for another one because as soon as they start indicating that they're going to stop the money printing, everything has to contract and unwind. And
we're going to see 70s level interest rates, probably 70s level inflation. Remember that? Oh my gosh.
No, it's worse. Right now is worse. The CPI numbers that we're getting are actually worse. And I think it is worse.
70s when things really were bad.
Yeah, that's what we kind of go back to is, well, what happened in the 80s is Paul Volcker came into the Fed and he said, I'm going to get rid of inflation. He raised interest rates from like low to 20%.
Yes.
And we had a mini depression in the United States in the early 80s in the first term of Reagan because interest rates were so high, but it did sort of kill off, the process of inflation that was going on. It was pretty successful. Yeah. And so will someone come in and do that? No one, there's took a lot of that on the horizon.
Yeah.
In fact, I think, so to answer your question, I think we have hyperinflation now. It's just, to the extent that you have freedom, it can absorb it. But when you don't have freedom, when you have like the COVID controls and things like that, that's when you start turning into Venezuela. The last thing that could happen that would turn us into Venezuela would be price controls. Because as long as prices can rise, the market can somewhat adapt to the inflation. But if the government says, no, we're going to cap prices are too high, then people will stop producing and you'll get black markets and businesses will shut down and then we'll be eating dogs and stuff like that. So as long as we don't have price controls, we can deal with it to some extent. But, with the advent of the COVID stuff and the restrictions and all the supply chain craziness that's been going on, you're really starting to see the money printing is really making its way into prices, and they could stop it. They can make it stop by stop the money printing, and just restoring freedom everywhere would help. But
oh my gosh,
they're not going to do that. I mean, the Fed, what they'll do is they'll just keep, their solution to everything is more money printing. So if the market goes down because they stop, they'll say, oh, I guess we got to print more money again.
And then we have 3 more years of Biden. So it's not like we're going to have somebody who's going to champion free market
he just renominated
solutions.
Powell. He renominated Powell, the Fed chairman, who's a dove. And the only good thing about that was the guy who was going to replace him was worse. The guy that was going to replace him was this guy who was claiming he was going to fund the Green New Deal. And I mean, they're just going to turn the Fed into a...
We have to disconnect from these people. I take it back. Let's become Indians in the woods, because honestly, if your biggest danger is like the mean, scary tribe next door that you are aware of, that you can see coming, that you can prepare for with your own spears and arrows, that sounds a little less scary than this kind of,
it's evil. It's just globalism.
Yeah.
And all these central banks, they all collude, to implement these policies at the same time.
Yeah.
We're in the throes right now of just like this globalist dictatorship,
really
and people just we have to go crazy.
That's freaking real. I mean, it sounds nuts, but like that is actually what's happening. And they have been explicitly and overtly planning this. It's in like, man, they'll send you a PowerPoint presentation from 20 years ago that lays out exactly how they're achieving what they're achieving right now.
Yeah, just look at history. So,
all right, good news. We're going to end on a really happy note there. That's it, right? The market recap is hyperinflation is actually happening right now. If it weren't for the fact that it was America and that we were we still have some freedoms and prices are not capped, we'd be in the shit, and we're going to be in some shit anyway.
Yeah.
And interest rates are probably going to go up and assets are probably going to crash.
Or if they don't, then, you'll just have continued runaway price increases.
So everybody needs to get a bow and arrow and start training for providing for their families with the Indian ways.
Let's go back full circle.
People are going to die. A lot of poor people.
Well, we're going to die anyway. So
in the world, globally.
No, I know it's horrific. I mean, the level of technology and knowledge that we have that could be deployed to making our lives wonderful and fantastic is so great right now. And yet, we've got all these forces to thwart human progress, thwart our energy system, thwart freedom and free markets, and, lock people down and, inflate away these debts and tax them and spend their money on nonsense. I mean, it's a very sad situation, but
all we have to do is stop sanctioning it. We just say, no, we're not going to do this anymore. Federal government's just not going to get any more. We're just done.
And go on the offensive.
We need some really tough, hardcore, ballsy leaders in state government. And then, that could really be a chain reaction and a domino effect around the country too. I don't think it would stay isolated to those states with those types of leaders. If there were more than one, we can't just have DeSantis, like there has to be a little collection of states that are doing.
South Dakota's good.
Yeah.
That's about it. We got a few.
Dang.
Keep going.
We can do this. Maybe.
We'll win. I think we can win.
I think we're Americans. I think that's what I
absolutely.
I know it sounds Pollyanna-ish, but I am an American and I relate to this and it resonates with me. I'm a meat-eating cowboy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, man.
There are a lot of us. And when it comes down to it, we will band together and at least form our own communities somewhere.
Meat-eating cowboys unite.
The meat-eating cowboy New Deal. That's what we need. We should call it that too.
Yeah.
Free New Deal. Fuck that. It's the cowboy New Deal. The American way deal. All right. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll do it next week. No, we got Christmas coming up and stuff, but we're going
to talk about the year and Christmas and everything.
We have December and then, all right. See you next week, everybody.
It's been the demise of bad ideas, and we'll know what's right when she's done. So download this free podcast now and hear perspectives you may lack. It's concise and right and achieves world peace, guaranteed all your money back. Last time, ready?